The Three-Fifths Compromise is one of three compromises that were struck during the writing of the American Constitution. The historical context here is that there was an argument between, quote, free and, quote, slave states while writing the Constitution. Essentially, the free states, mostly in the North, that were not big on agriculture. Therefore, there were not very many slaves in those states. There were slaves there, there just weren't very many like there were in southern states where they had large plantations. So, for the purposes of this video, we're going to quantify them as free and slave states, but I wanted to give you that context. So essentially, the argument that's going on between these two states is who counts as a person? Okay, slave states wanted to count slaves for the purposes of deciding how many members of the House of Representatives they would get, because the more people you have, the more representation you get. However, the free states didn't want to count them, their argument being that they're not treated like citizens and they're not allowed to vote. Enslaved people were not at the time. So that was the argument. Now, the free states said, we can count them, but then you have to pay more in taxes. Your burden of the taxes that will go to the federal government will be higher if we're going to count them. But the slave states did not want to do that because none of the enslaved people were actually paying taxes because they weren't paid at all. So the compromise is struck that enslaved persons will count as three-fifths of a person. Okay, so this makes both the slave and the free states feel like they are getting what they want. Slave states will pay a little bit more in taxes, but they won't get too much representation in Congress. Not getting what they want or are even considered enslaved people. Obviously, they wouldn't be happy with this compromise because they lose no matter what the situation. I have a little drawing here to demonstrate basically the blue dots are free citizens, white people essentially, right? So 5 of them equals 3 of the yellow triangles, which represent enslaved persons in this situation. Okay, so you have to, for every 5 white people, there are 3 enslaved. Okay, and remember again, now women also not allowed to vote. Okay, and they are also being counted toward representation.